Daf Nun Tes Amud Aleph will begin at Daf Nun Ches Amud Beis, 5 lines from the bottom. We're in the middle of the Machlokes, the discussion of the Mizbeach HaZohav. When the Kohen Gadol finishes doing the Hazois, the Paroiches, he comes out and he does the Hazois on the Mizbeach HaZohav. We had a Machlokes for Rav Akiva and Rav Yosef Galili. From where does he start? So according to Rav Yosef Galili, he comes out from the area between the Mizbeach and the Paroiches. He comes out and he starts on the northeast corner, and then he circles to his right and goes around. According to Rabbi Akiva, he starts on the southeast corner and goes to his left and goes around. Now we know that on the Mizbeach HaChitzain, that we learned that Kol Pina Shatapanu Li'al Derech Yamin, that he turns to his right. So he comes up the Kevesh and he turns to his right and he circles around to his right. The question is, in the Mizbeach HaPnimi, does he do the same or not? So Rabbi Yosef Galili says we learn out the Mizbeach HaPnimi from the Mizbeach HaChitzain. Just like the Mizbeach HaChitzain, he circles to his right, so too on the Mizbeach HaPnimi. And Rabbi Akiva says you don't learn out the Mizbeach of the Pnimi from the Mizbeach HaChitzain. But Frek the Gemara, Rabbi Akiva, Nehi de lo yalach Pnim mechutz. Well, even if he doesn't learn out Pnim, the inside one, from the outside one, but why does he go dafka to his left? Boy hachinavid. Why doesn't he have the option to turn either to the right or to the left? Why does he turn dafka to the left? Amr lach Rabbi Akiva says, Medina bahu keren de pagaresh bahu aviresh. Really, he should do it on the southwest corner, because when he leaves the area between the Paroiches and the Mizbeach, he's to the west. So he encounters this corner first. Really, he should do that corner first. However, he doesn't do that one because it says v'yotza. It says v'yotza, so he can't do that one. But Medina, really, essentially, he should do that one first. Medina bahu keren de pago reish ba'avad b'reisha de amareish lakish ein mavirin ala mitzvahs. You don't pass over a mitzvah. Mitzvah comes to your hand, you should do it immediately. So the first corner that he encounters is the southwest. He should do it on this corner first. Why doesn't he? Why doesn't he do it in that corner? Because it says v'yotz. He has to leave the area of the Mizbeach. He has to leave the entire area of the Mizbeach. So therefore, he passes over that corner. But as soon as he does it, he is Mekayim, that pasuk, fulfills the pasuk that says V'yotza. And he does it on the southeast corner. So once he's Mekayim, the pasuk of V'yotza, so then he turns to his left and goes back to the one which he should have done. He should have done it on this corner. However, says V'yotza, he has to come out. So therefore, he does this, he goes back to his left and does it in this corner. So that's why he turns to his left. I'll tell you another teretz. If you take, they would say that the Kohen circles the Mizbeach HaPnimi by foot, that he walks around it. Everyone would agree that they're similar, and you'd learn out Pnim mechutz, and just like by chutz, you do to the right, here also to the right. But what's the machlokes here? But Rabbi Akiva holds you don't circle it by foot. You don't walk around it. You just reach over. The Mizbeach HaPnimi is only an amma by amma, so he just reaches over. He doesn't walk around it. He just reaches over to each corner. And therefore, it's not similar to the Mizbeach HaChitzain. Therefore, you don't learn out from the Mizbeach HaChitzain that you have to turn to your right. Umar Savra Kafa Beregel. And Rav Yosef Galili, on the other hand, holds even by the Mizbeach HaPnimi, he walks around it, he circles it by regel, and therefore it's similar to the Mizbeach HaChitzain, and therefore you have to turn to your right. I'll tell you another shpat, that they both agree that he does not walk around it, and it's biyad. What's the machlekes? Marasavar Yalfina Yad Meregel. Rabbi Yossi Galila says, well, just like when you walk around it, just like when it's beregel, you turn to your right. Here also, you learn out, and it's to your right. Umarasavar Yalfina. And Rabbi Kiva says you don't learn out. Frank the Gemara, can you say this? The Savar Rabbi Yossi Hagalili Hakafa Biyad. Can you say that Rabbi Yossi Hagalili holds that he does not walk around it, he just reaches over to the corners? In our Mishnah, the Sefer says, Rabbi Eliezer says he does not walk around, he says he just reaches over to the corners. Must be that the Tanakama does not hold that way. Now the Tanakama of the Mishnah is Rabbi Yossi Hagalili, because the Tanakama says that the order of the corners, he starts from the northeast corner. That's Rabbi Yossi Hagalili. The Tanakama is Rabbi Yossi Hagalili. And it's Rabbi Eliezer says that you don't walk around, you do it biyad. Must be the Tanakama, who's Rabbi Yossi Hagalili, says you do walk around. Must be like we held originally. Mar Savar Hakafa biyad, Mar Savar Hakafa beregel. And the other one holds Hakafa beregel, that the kaf is done be'reil. That's the machlekes. V'boy sema. V'boy sema. Now over here, it says in the Gemara, v'boy sema. The Goyen has a different girsa. He takes out v'boy sema, and he's geiris that baha kamiflagi, and he's geiris that this is ubaha kamiflagi. And this is the basis of the machlekes, meaning it's not another interpretation of another alternative to say whether you learn out from the outside to the inside, wise you learn out derech yamin or derech small. It's boha kamiflagi. This is what the machlekes is, where you say that he goes around it, he stands in his place, and he reaches over or he walks around. It's a hesber in why you would say that you stand in the place and you reach over or you walk around. It's not the ibois ema than in like we had before, which is another interpretation of why you turn to the right or to the left. So ubaha kamiflagi mar savar saviv the mizbeach pnimi kesaviv the mizbeach hachitzin. One holds that Rav Yossi Hagalili holds that the saviv of the pnimi is like the chitzin. So just like the chitza and just like the outer mizbeach, the kohen gadol walks around it. Here also, umar savar kula mizbeach pnimi b'mekayim achad hakeren the mizbeach chitzan kohen. Rabbi Kiva says, no, you don't learn out the mizbeach pnimi from the chitzan, because in the dimension of the mizbeach pnimi, it was only aman al ama. And that is equivalent to the keren, the corner of the mizbeach hachitzan. The mizbeach hachitzan you walk around, but the mizbeach hapnimi is only an amma ba'ama, which is equivalent to one keren, and in one keren you don't walk around, you just apply, the kind applies it with his hand. So too in the entire mizbeach hapnimi, it's done by hand, by reaching over by hand, and not by applying it by walking around it and applying it by hand after walking around. So therefore he says that in the mizbeach hapnimi, it is done biyad, because that's the equivalent to one keren of the mizbeach hachitzon. So it seems from the maskana of the Gemara, from the conclusion of the Gemara, it seems that if the hakafa is done biyad, if it is done biyad, you do not learn out from regel, and it does not have to be done to the right. If it's only done beregel, then it's done to the right, and therefore Rabbi Yossi Hagalili says the hakafa is beregel, so it's done to the right, and Rabbi Kiva says the hakafa is biyad, so it's not done to the yamin, it's not done to the right. The Rashash and other Chayim ask the kasha, well, we do find that we do hakafa biyamin, even though it's hakafa biyad. When we do with the esrog when we do the nanuim on the with the lulav and the esrog, we turn to the right. And by Ner Chanukah, we do it to the right, even though that is biyad. Even though it's biyad, we turn to the right. So why is that so? It seems from the maskana of the Gemara over here that that's not that way. The Rashash says, well, perhaps this is the machlekes Rabbi Kiva and Rabbi Yossi Hagalili, but perhaps that we have in our Mishnah, we have the shita of Rabbi Eliezer. Now, Rabbi Eliezer says in the Mishnah that b'bekayma haya aimed, he argues with the Tanakama, And he says, but we don't see that he argues on the order of where it's done, in the sequence of where it's done. So it seems to be that Rabbi Eliezer is maida to the Tanakama, that he's maida to Rabbi Yossi Aglili, that it is done by turning to the right. Even though it is ahakafa biyad, you still turn to the right, and perhaps we go according to that shita. But perhaps we can also say that the pshat is that where it is done, the biyad and not beregel, there's no necessity to turn to the right, meaning that you don't turn to the right where it overrides the issue that Rabbi Kiva had, that, well, you should have done it really on the west corner, because ein mavir al mitzvahs. The makif and biyad or beregel overrides even that inyan of when we say ein mavir and al mitzvahs, because the Torah says that you have to be yotze, he has to go past the mizbeach. Now, since we say you turn to the right, he does not turn back to go to the west. So perhaps it's only when it's beregel that we say that even though you should have done it on the west, and you didn't because the Torah says v'yotza, so you must go past. You don't go back to go to the west because the turning to the right overrides going back and doing it too once you've passed over the west. However, if it's biyad, then you don't say that the chashivas of it is so strong that it overrides that. But if there's anything to the absence, if there's no reason, if all things being equal, if it's the right or the left, all things being equal, even beyond, you would still go to the right. There's still a mila of going to the right, of being pointed to the yamin, even beyond. But it's perhaps not so strong as to say that it overrides what normally would be a requirement to return to something that you passed over, and it's not so strong as to override that and go to your right regardless. If it's beregel, you say the requirement to go to your right is so strong that it overrides what we normally would say is return to something that you passed over. But if it's beyond, it's not that strong, and therefore you turn to the left. But all things being equal, if it's by lulav, it's by Hanukkah, all things being equal, you have a choice between the right and the left, you still go to the right, even if it's beyond. Tanya, we taught in the Bryce, Amar Rabbi Yishmael, he says, Shnei Kohanim Gedolim Nishtari b'Mikdash Rishon. There was two Kohanim Gedolim that remained from the time of the first base of Mikdash. The Goyin removes, he's not Goyers Mikdash Rishon, as we'll explain in a minute. He's not Goyers Mikdash Rishon. He says, Shnei Kohanim Gedolim Nishtari, they were left over. It says, Omer Biyadi Hekafti. One says, I circled with my hand. And the other one says, I circled by foot. Each one gave a reason for what he said. The soviv of the mizbeach pnimi is like chitzon, and therefore, just like the chitzon is biyad, pnimi is also biyad. That the entire mizbeach pnimi is the dimension of the one keren of the chitzon, and just like the keren of the chitzon is not biyad, it's not beregel, it's biyad. Here also, it is the same way that it is done. The entire mizbeach pnim is done biyad and not beregel. The Tosfos Shonim asks, how can we have a machlekes over here? It says that there is no machlekes until the time of Yossi ben Yoezer, which was after the Churban of Bayis Rishon. How can there be a machlekes in Bayis Rishon of what it was, how they did the hakafa? And the Goyin, as we mentioned, is not Goyres Mikdash Rishon. So it's just Goyres Mikdash. Maybe it happened in Mikdash Sheni when there was Rabba Machlekes. Tosfos Shonim, however, says that perhaps this was not something that came to a minyan. They didn't paskin on it in the Bezin of Kahanim, and if they had paskined on it, perhaps it would not be a machlekes, but it was something that, meaning they held that both are valid, you can do it each way, and each one gave a tam l'dvar. One preferred to do it this way, and the other preferred to do it the other way. The Gemara continues, the Mishnah said that Rabbi Eliezer said he did not walk around the Mizbech. He stood in his place, and he did the application of them while standing in his place. And he did the chitui, he did the application when he was standing in his place, and all of them he applied the blood from the bottom to the top, not from the top to the bottom, from the bottom to the top, except for the one which was directly in front of him, which he did from the top to the bottom so that he wouldn't soil his beged, so the blood would not drip down and stain his beged. Masnisan Mani, who's the Tana of our Mishnah, that said this is the view of Rabbi Eliezer. More says Rabbi Yehudi. It's Rabbi Yehuda. The Sanya, because it's taught in the Brisa, Rab Meir Omer. Rab Meir says, Rabbi Eliezer, that Rab Meir's version is, he said, that Rabbi Eliezer says, he stood in his place, and in Mechate, Val Kulan Hayanoisen, Mil Mala Lamata. And all of the ones, and all of the corners, he did from top to bottom. Chutz me'oiseh shebelachsan, except for the corner which was diagonally opposite him, except for that one, the one that was in a lachsan which was diagonally across, meaning he had to reach over the mizbeach on an angle that was the furthest away from him. Shenoisen min mata lemala. There he did it to make it easier for him, that he did it from bottom to top. It would be more difficult to extend his arm over the mizbeach and do it from top to bottom. So that is not the view of our Mishnah. But Rabbi Yehuda says, Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Mekayim Omer, he stood in his place, Machat. So this is consistent with our Mishnah. On all of the corners, he did it from bottom to top. Except the one that was directly in front of him, and he did it from top to bottom, so that his clothing should not become dirty, should not get stained with the blood. Then after he did it on the corners, the Mishnah said he's a mimenal teira shel mizbeach. He then sprinkled it on the teira shel mizbeach. What does that mean? My tara, what does it mean, the tara of the mizbeach? Amar Rabba Bar Shila, he says, palga the mizbeach. It means from the halfway mark. It means from the midpoint of the mizbeach and up. From the midpoint and higher, that is the Tara Shel Mizbeach, Kedam Renche Tara Tira. Vahavi Palga the Yom. Like people say that it's Torah Lashon of bright. It became bright, what they refer to as noon. It's the midpoint, it's the noon, the midpoint of the day, where it's the brightest. So here also, that's referring to the midpoint, Vahavi Palga the Yom, it's noon. Here also, it's a Palga the Mizbeach, it's from the midpoint of the Mizbeach. It says when he sprinkles, he doesn't sprinkle the blood on the ashes, and not on the cold. He moves away, clears away the coals from the top of the mizbeach, and when he has a clear spot, that's where he sprinkles it. So you see that it's on the top of the mizbeach, not on the side of the mizbeach. Alama Rabba Shila. What does it mean, Tara Shel Mizbeach? Al Giluy the Mizbeach. It means on the exposed part of the Mizbeach, meaning on the part of the Mizbeach where he clears away the ashes and the coals. Like it says in the Pasuk, the appearance was like the appearance of the Shemaim in its purity, Latar. So Tar means purity, meaning on the clear part of the Mizbeach, the area that he cleared it away. So what area on that Mizbeach was the area that he cleared away the ashes and the cold, and he did the sprinkling? Tanya, Chananya Imer, he says, B'tzad Tzvainu Naisen. He said he applies it, it's on the north side of the Mizbeach. That the 7 times on the Torah Shel Mizbeach is on the north side. And Rabbi Yossi Imer, he says, B'tzad Dreimeu Naisen. He says it's on the south side. But what are they arguing with? Marasavar Pischa B'Darmkoi. One holds, Chananya holds, that the Pesach to the Kodesh Kadoshim was in the south. The entrance to the Kodesh Kadoshim was on the south side of the Azara. So therefore, when the Kohen exited from the Pesach, from the Kodesh Kadoshim, then the place in the Heichal, the side of the Heichal that he was at, would be in the south, because he left the Kodesh Kadoshim. The Pesach was on the south side, so now when he exited, he's on the south side of the Heichal. So Marsavar Pischa B'Darmka, and therefore it's on the south, and therefore Therefore, so when the Kohen comes and exits, he's on the south side. He's on the south side of the Mizbeach. Now, as we said before, he can't do the Hazah on the corners on the southwest, because there's V'yotza. He has to come out, so he comes to the east side. So now he holds, he's on the south, and therefore he comes to the east. He follows back to the west, because that's what he should have done, because Ein Ma'arin Ala Mitzvahs, but the Pasuk says V'yotza, so now he comes back there and he turns around and he ends off on the northeast. So that's why Hananiah says, but Satzveni Hu Noiseh, because the Pesach is in the Dorim. Umar Sover, and Rav Yossi holds Pischa B'tzofenkai. He holds the Pesach is in the north. So when he exits the Kodesh Kadoshim, he encounters the northwest. He can't do it on the west because it says V'yotza. So he comes out to the east. Now, Ein Ma'avir and Al Mitzvah, so he has to go back to the area that he skipped over. So he's at the northeast, he goes to the northwest, he comes to the south, and he ends up on the south. So that's the way they hold, that it depends where the Pesach, the machlokes that they have, is where the Pesach was. Was it to the north or the south? The Kuli Alma Mia, however, according to everybody, Heicha de Garman Matanas, the Kronas, wherever it is that he concludes the Matanas of the corner is Hasam Yoiv Al Gagai. That's where he then, in that area where he completes it, that's where he puts it on the top of the Mizbeach. My time, what's the reason for that? Amrakra Vetira Vekirish. It says that he's Tira, he purifies it, and he's Mekadosh it. Makam Shekitsha, the place where he's Mekadosh it, where he puts it on the corners, then over there, Sham Tirai. That's where he does it, Tirai. That's where he puts it on the Tara Shel Mizbeach, on the surface of the Mizbeach. So where he ends off on the corners, there he goes to the surface, makes a clearing, and he puts it on the surface of the Mizbeach 7 times.